Hello, and this is Steve Ferreira of Ocean Freight TV recording live at TPM 2023 in Long Beach as presented by S&P Global Market Intelligence. I'm so pleased today that I've got a great old friend, Peter Tirschwell, who is the Vice President of Maritime, Trade, and Supply Chain at S&P Market Intelligence. Peter, welcome to today's episode.
Happy to be here, Steve.
Great to see you. Yeah, how is the show going so far?
I think it's going pretty well. I don't really have direct satisfaction. It's only derivative satisfaction. Therefore, if other people are happy, then I'm happy. So I'm constantly asking people, how are their meetings going? Are they picking up good insights and intelligence from the sessions that they're attending? So I'm getting the impression that there's a lot of activity going on here, a lot of meetings, a lot of business going on. So that makes me happy.
Well, I tell you, Peter, I've been walking the floor, ladies and gentlemen of TPM, and I'm finding some amazing things. And one of the things that I found, Peter, that was one of the most amazing new trends, first off, brilliant mind stroke, masterpiece on your guys, the TPM Academy. Home run. Everything I'm hearing about this in terms of the education, what you're doing with the different groups and the different trilogies and offsets of these different permutations on letters of credit and even auditing. How did that come to be, and how can you kind of pay that forward so that BCOs keep that education going with S&P Market Intelligence in mind as the leader of this new concept? It's a home run. Tell me about it, and how can you keep it going?
So we'll absolutely keep it going next year. So it had originated when Dan Gardner, who is a very well-known logistics educator and practitioner, he's been a 3PL, he's been a BCO, but his love is education. A couple of years ago at TPM, even pre-COVID, he had led a shipping 101 session that took place on the Sunday afternoon of TPM.
Sure.
And we noticed that it was standing room only, and that there seemed to be a real desire for some basic kind of logistics education or educational type programming at TPM. And so when we started the planning process for TPM 23, which basically started happening as soon as last year's event was over, the very first thing that I did was to secure a meeting room within the Long Beach Convention Center. I said, I want that meeting room for the entire conference.
Awesome.
And then with that, because space is somewhat at a premium at this event, it's going to be much less so when we expand next year. But having that room meant that we could do a series of what I think was 11 or 12 sessions. So we greatly expanded it this year. We put a lot of thought into it over many, many months, and I'm very pleased to hear from what you're saying that it's being well received.
Peter, it's phenomenal. I think that this is the one thing that, we need the continuity of this educational process. I did a study on LinkedIn that over 400,000 or 500,000 people have like a logistics or supply chain title, ocean freight title. And out of that, about 10% of those folks were brand new. They're new to their job. You get a lot of nice 20-something and 30-somethings here for the first time. And I think they're thriving on this educational content that you've been able to bring. And I see this as a way for you to have almost a new trademark. You've got TPM Tech. You've got TPM. TPM Academy is something not only for next year, but I'm also interested in seeing you continue that through broadcasts and publications and tips and tricks that you write about. So I think that's, if I may say so, I think that that's a real hot spot where you and your team could focus on.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the response, Steve, has been
so
positive as you, and so we will keep it going, no question about it.
Yeah. Well, that's such an important aspect here at TPM is the educational content. But this guy is one of the best writers in the world. So my other question is, on Monday, what will you write about? What will be your topic on Monday?
Well, I'm already writing it because I have a column due by the end of the day today.
Give us a sneak preview.
So if I don't get it in, then I'm going to be, I'm going to be tracked down, hunted down by my editors. And so essentially, what is the market here? What is TPM saying about the market? You've had freight rates come way down. Now we're entering into another contract season where the as had been the case in prior years, spot rates are driving contract rates, and but the spot rates are so low and the overcapacity is still so much of a presence in the market. Of course, actually, you find a situation where shippers are starting to get nervous, where they could sign a contract at a certain rate, but the rate is so low that they're not going to be confident that their cargo isn't going to get left behind the moment the market tightens up. So there's a view, I think, among a lot of shippers here, based on their experience of the past couple of years, that a contract rate is not a contract rate. That a contract rate will hold so long as market forces allow it to hold. But if market forces start to move in a different direction, for example, if we have some kind of restocking surge, that's
one of my next questions, by the way. Continue, sir.
Yeah, and whatever the circumstances are that leads to a situation of capacity tightness, that all of a sudden the pricing that you had thought you put into place isn't going to get your cargo moved, and that is not a situation that totally exists today. If you had asked shippers maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, does having the lowest rated cargo being at the low end of the spectrum in terms of how much you're paying to have your freight moved,
right,
does that make you nervous? They would have told you yes then, just like they're saying yes now.
Of course. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways.
Yeah.
What you're writing about on Monday is going to be fascinating, and it almost plays into my question about like what the tea leaves are telling you. One of the things I'm finding in talking to the hundreds of people I've met so far is I'm worried, Peter, about the lag effect. I'm worried about the fact that people are taking tidbits away now and learning great things like you're doing, but the lag effect of them putting into play because they might not be so proactive and able to see that and turn on a dime. Other than the kind of where we are now on rates and negotiations, what would be maybe an underlying piece of advice you could give the BCOs to be smart, to be proactive? What should they be looking for as the next turning point in this kind of anti-container-getting environment? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think BCOs are kind of in a pretty tough spot in some ways. In some ways, they're in a very good spot.
Sure.
Meaning that the pricing has come down very, very significantly. So in terms of costs,
right,
going out the door to move ocean freight, that's much more normalized. So that's positive for them.
They're better, yeah.
Better from their point of view.
Yeah.
Better. But the unpredictability associated with supply chains is, number one, very, very present, even greater than it was, and two, very, very difficult to mitigate. So, as long as your supply chain originates in a certain place, and now you can always move your supply chain. You can go to other countries. You can move out of China, which is, more of a geopolitical play, but it doesn't matter. If you are engaged in long-haul supply chains because you are trying to tap into low cost or what you would call a sort of acceptable cost manufacturing,
sure,
you are still reliant on the ocean container shipping system to be the underlying requirement of your supply chain.
It's the linchpin. Yeah,
you are in an environment now where it's very, very difficult to predict what your costs are going to be and what your the potential for disruption in your supply chain. And this was one of my points in my opening statement yesterday, that unpredictability and risk is now ever present. It's not if, but when the next shock is going to happen. Nobody knows when it's going to happen. Nobody knows the reason why it's going to happen. So, but it's expected that it will happen. But how do you plan for that? You can't.
I get goosebumps when you tell me what you just told me, because, one of the things I firmly believe in, I believe that, I may be anti-contrarian here, but I believe economists have not pegged the strength of the American consumer. I believe that it's possible that we could see a resurgence. Inventory levels are normalizing. It's possible that some incident or event could occur that Americans go back on a buying spree. We could have more capacity constraints. Ocean carriers could see this. I worry deeply about BCOs thinking that they've got it in the bag, so to speak. This is going to be a year for them to enjoy good rates. But I do worry about, what if the economy super improves? What if we overheat? What if we start to see large trends out of Asia? Any thoughts on how BCOs can start looking towards that?
Well, this is kind of what I'm saying, is that you can believe whoever you want to believe.
Right.
You can believe that the consumer is going to is going to perk up.
Right.
You can look at whatever indicator you want to. You can look at unemployment. You can look at consumer confidence. You can look at wage growth. You can look at so many retail sales, retail forecasts, whatever it is that you want. But then you have to so you can sort of try to make a judgment on what demand is going to be from a million different factors and voices, and a lot of cacophony in the whole analysis of demand.
Of course.
But even if you do that, you've only gone halfway, because then now you have to look at supply, right? Because you have to say, okay, what are the carriers' behavior going to be? The blanking of sailings, how is that going to be offset against what that demand picture is? One of the things that has not happened but could happen, we heard, not rumors to that effect, but almost expectation, that if the rates still keep going down, that you're going to start to see vessel layups. You have not seen that. But if that happens, then now you've got a situation that if demand were to spike, or if there is some kind of restocking, which who knows, now what is going to be the capacity of the system to be able to prevent it? And I'm just talking about so far on the ocean side. What happens if
Totally. Trunk side, port side, I get it.
Forget about it. You've got why did we have all those ships backed up? It was because cargo wasn't moving through the system on the land side nearly fast enough. So you're trying to put all this together, Steve, and it is almost impossible for somebody to really have a degree of confidence that my cargo is going to move at this rate and fluidly, predictably, and that I can bank on it. Almost impossible to do that.
This is incredible advice. And by the way, hi again, I'm Steve Ferreira, and I'm Ocean Freight TV, and with my special guest, Peter Tirschwell, VP of Maritime Trade and Supply Chain at S&P Global Market Intelligence. Peter, just a few more questions.
Yeah.
I was thinking a little bit about what you just said, and I think that the main thing I wanted to convey to our audience is that now that you've been at TPM, and all those participants that have been at TPM, you've got incredible takeaways. TPM is a 4-day, 5-day, 6-day event. JOC and S&P and the Global Marketing Intelligence that this man and his editors and staff deliver, the whole team does yeoman's work. And I think that one of the real linchpins of understanding this market is understanding and communicating through the media that Peter and his team and the editors presented at the S&P JOC group. So I really admire that fact that, as takeaways for educational purposes, that you guys and participants in the 3PL, 4PL carriers and BCOs look at what the JOC and S&P Market Intelligence is doing to help you learn and improve. Because what you're saying is to move on a dime, and that takes a lot of good kind of to use the sports analogies of cuts. Just a few follow-up questions, if I may ask. It seems a little bit of an obscure question, but the continuation of the Russia-Ukraine crisis as it relates to maybe global shipping, you see it as a small flip or something that we need to keep our eyes on going forward? Yeah.
Well, it's huge.
Tell me about it. Tell us about it.
The invasion started right before TPM last year, and we just saw the first year of the invasion. Sure. We had never in 23 years at TPM talked about geopolitical risk to containerized supply chains in any substantial way.
Right.
And there was no question this year that we needed to invite a true slugged-in national security expert. And so that's why we invited a General David Petraeus to be our keynote speaker in this year. We would have never thought to do that in the past. And what's very clear is that geopolitical risk is now a very tangible consideration that all BCOs and their all the way up to their senior management need to be aware of. Not just directly because of the Russia-Ukraine war, but rather what it says in a way about the state of the state of affairs in the world, because we've seen a lot of tensions over Taiwan be building over time.
Right.
I think one of the things that the Russia-Ukraine war did, especially seeing China's alliance with Russia, interestingly then connects that conflict into the Asia-Pacific region, and now makes more real the threat of conflict around Taiwan. And Steve, 40%, you know this because you're an expert in the AMS data, 40% of all loaded containers coming into the United States are coming from China. Still, 40%.
No question.
No question. Like, that's an unbelievably high number that should there be any sort of disruption to that due to an armed conflict, then we have a lot bigger problems than just container supply chains.
I think Peter's just raised a really good point. The risk is real. Geopolitical issues come into play all the time, and I really appreciate Peter's comment on it. Peter, we've had an awfully great conversation. I hope we can continue this. I want to thank you for being such a great host to TPM at TPM 2023 for all of us, myself included, all BCOs and carriers. Thank you so much for your time. Peter Tirschwell from the S&P Market Intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. Great, appreciate it. Thank you for being here.